Chris, do you have your passport? Is it with you?
I do have my passport. It is locked up safely. I check on it every 3 to 4 hours because I will be getting out of here when I need to get out of here.
Yeah, I'm the same way. You leave it in the hotel safe, you lock it up, and then you check it every 5 minutes. It never
in
leaves
and
your
out,
person.
no question.
All right, we'll get to the basketball in a second. What are you? Well, I mean, what's the word down there this morning? I assume this is the only thing people are talking about, right? The Lochte story.
Yeah, it's incredulous. I would say is how I would describe people down here because initially, after when the story first broke, it was, oh man, that happened to the U.S. swimmers. But we've been reading reports of that happening to people down here for 10 days now. It's been, members of the Australian delegation, European nations have been, mugged. So this was just another, few people you could add to the list. So it was a story for, 12 hours, but everyone started to kind of move on until all this stuff started to evolve. And like you were just saying, it's hard to kind of imagine the motivations of a Ryan Lochte to potentially have made some of this stuff up or all of this stuff up. I mean, this is a grown man, 32 years old, who may have just, fabricated something that I still can't wrap my head around why he would fabricate it. So everyone is still kind of, curious for answers. And I don't think we really got any answers after listening to what Matt Lauer said last night on NBC.
Right, which is he had spoken to Lochte on the phone, and some of the details seemingly, especially with the placement of the gun near the head, most notably, were slightly different. That doesn't mean it didn't happen.
That's kind of how you tell you embellish a story for your buddies, not for public consumption. With that, it's head scratching. And now, look, Andrew, this is what Lochte's known for. I mean, this is the new story, not what he did in the pool. This is the new story, and this is going to be one way or the other hanging around his neck, way more than the medals do.
Yeah, unless they actually find the alleged perpetrators and this whole thing goes away. But I have a sneaking suspicion that even if this story is 100% true, you're never going to find the guys that allegedly robbed him. That ain't happening.
There's no shot.
No.
The only hope they have is that if this did happen, that they do find the cab driver. But even when this story first broke, I didn't think they're going to find the cab driver either. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of cab drivers here in Rio, and I don't know if any of them are eager to go talk to the police about something like this. So I don't think we'll ever get any clear resolution, frankly.
No, and if you're the cab driver too, and at this point it's turned into a thing of national pride to paint Ryan Lochte and the other Americans as liars here. Why would you come forward and ruin the good story? But again, that's assuming that it did happen and assuming that anyone has anything other than good intentions. Anyway, Chris Mannix from Yahoo's The Vertical down there covering both basketball and boxing. The game yesterday, the basketball game in which they whooped up on Spain 105-78. Was there a sense of relief that maybe they finally stopped sleepwalking here?
I'm sure on some level there was, but I don't think there should be any sense of relief. I mean, they clobbered Argentina in the exhibition schedule. They did it again last night. Argentina just is tailor-made right now for this U.S. team. They're older. They lack superior athleticism at this point. They don't run a very complicated offensive system. And they didn't shoot well from the outside. In addition, they don't have any size to match up with the U.S. team. So, that was, in some ways expected, what they did last night. What's going to be challenging is how do they handle a Spain team that runs a lot of motion offense, that runs their shooters like Mirotic and Rudy Fernandez off screens, that has an elite big man in Pau Gasol that they can throw the ball into the post to. I mean, it's going to be an entirely different challenge for the U.S. team facing Spain tomorrow.
And that's going to be a semifinal. Again, it's Team USA. We're talking basketball here with Chris Mannix against Spain. Spain whooped up on France 92-67. The comments a couple of days ago, I think from Paul George, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, that we thought it would be easier. How were those taken?
Well, I mean, look, I'm sure internally, and especially for a lot of these guys, 10 of these guys, who are playing in their first Olympics, they did expect it. I mean, look, they they cruised in the exhibition schedule. But beating up on China and Venezuela and Argentina is just not the same as facing teams like Australia and Spain that have been sending elite, not elite, but certainly decent to above average NBA players to the Olympics year after year. And I don't think they were prepared for this type of stuff. The big thing and the big challenge is defensively. I mean, look, they have maybe the best defensive mind in the NBA in Tom Thibodeau on the bench. They've got 4 guys who are on either the first or second all-NBA defensive team, and yet they're struggling. And the reason they're struggling is that defensive continuity is not something you can learn in a week or a month. It's the kind of thing that takes time. And the reason they're having trouble with these sophisticated offenses is because they don't trust each other yet, because they haven't played enough together to understand where each guy's going to be and how that defense can gel. And I don't think that's going to change. I think Spain is going to present a lot of problems. I think if it's Australia, they're going to present a lot of problems in the gold medal game. This defensive problem is one that's going to keep cropping up, and USA Basketball is going to have to score 95, 100 points in these next 2 games, I think, to win.
Or with Boeheim there, they could just go 2-3.
That's a thought, and certainly one that I wonder if Mike Krzyzewski would ultimately explore. But again, it's something these guys aren't used to doing.
Right.
And you saw last night when teams are trying to go at them one-on-one, they can't do it. USA Basketball is great at on-the-ball defense. The problem becomes when teams start moving the ball around the perimeter and screening and running these complex systems, they just don't know how to match up with it.
Chris Mannix from The Vertical with basketball, but boxing as well down there. The IBA, Chris, the International Boxing Association, has sent home a couple of referees and judges after a review found, quote, less than a handful of the decisions were not at the level expected. You had an Irish boxer screaming foul and actually dropping some 4-letter words saying they're cheats, almost suggesting that, paid off by the Russians. And again, this is him screaming and yelling. Gary Russell lost that split decision as well. He's an American, to the fighter from Uzbekistan. Floyd Mayweather, consider the source there, said that Russell was clearly robbed. What's going on?
Yeah, it's the same story, different year with the International
Why does it keep
Boxing
happening?
Association. They've got this happening all the time. I mean, you go back to 1988 when Roy Jones was robbed, awfully in the gold medal fight back then. Every single Olympic cycle, you have these events. The problem is, and there are many problems, obviously, but the big problem is, the bottom line is, they don't have an appeals process, and there should be an appeals process. If you see a score that is so egregiously poorly scored, that is so awful, you should have the ability, a team should have the ability to appeal that, and there should be an independent panel that goes back and watches the fight, and if they think it's clear that decision was wrong, they should overturn it. They have not had that, I'm pretty sure, in the history of Olympic boxing. They had a referee's appeal 4 years ago, but they did away with that too. So the one thing this Olympic boxing governing body has to do going forward is to change that rule and create an appeals process, because some of this stuff is a joke. I mean, Gary Russell, the American, he won that fight. Michael Conlon, the Irish guy, he won that fight. There was a gold medal fight between a Russian and I believe a Uzbekistan fighter. I'm entirely sure there, but the Russian won the fight. He should not have won the fight. They should be able to appeal and get this thing right, because it should not be this difficult, Andrew, to score a 3-round fight. It just shouldn't. You should be competent enough, especially when these judges are considered the best of the best. There are a pool of 300 judges, 36 from around the world are chosen. The best judges in the world should be getting these fights right.
But it keeps happening, and we don't hear it for gymnastics, although people can argue about scores. Why does it keep happening, Chris, for boxing?
I don't know. And, obviously there's a whiff of shadiness that
Sure.
you can wonder about and say, what's going on behind the scenes? I asked an AIBA official about that last night. He was vehement that there was no evidence of anything like that. They just decided to send these judges home because they didn't feel they did their job right. But, year after year, it's something that has to be addressed. And I think the only way to properly do it, though, is the appeal. If you have the appeal in place, even if there is a bad decision, you can go back, look at it, and get it right.
All right. You're safe, though. You're cool. You're good. You're okay in Rio?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to Friday night to what I believe will be a monster performance by Ricky Rubio and the Spanish national team.
Are you calling a Spanish win right now? Is that what you're doing?
No.
No?
I'm calling a Spanish loss, but Rubio with 20-10 in defeat.
I think, first of all, Spain is stacked. I mean, they're a team.
Yes, that was true in 2008, and it's true now.
Chris Mannix for The Vertical and Yahoo, or his dad calls it Yahoo, in Rio. Be safe, please, Chris.
You got it, Andrew.
All right, talk to you later.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.